Is it the race to watch next year?
Well, I think every race is important. This race is probably going to be the #1 race in the country because people are still upset that I took the so-called Kennedy seat. They still think it's the Kennedy seat, and quite frankly, it's still the people's seat. And I'm going to continue to do my very, very best to tell them and convince them why they should put me back for another term.
Can she beat you in 2012?
Well, listen, if I was concerned about polls, I never would have gotten out of bed when I was down 41 points last time I ran. So the voters are going to have a very, very clear choice. Somebody who's proclaimed, she said that she wants to leave blood and teeth on the streets instead of compromising, and versus me, who, listen, I'm a moderate. I always have been. I'm a problem solver. I work to find people of goodwill who want to move our country and our state forward.
Do you buy that notion if they vote for Ron Paul, Iowa's off the map?
It shouldn't be. I think that the media elites and the elites in the Republican Party will use that as the pretext for that because they don't like the results. You know, they only like democracy when the results come out in the favor that they want. So I don't think that that should happen. I think Iowa, as New Hampshire, is also a pretty good microcosm of things. I mean, what other state's going to be an alternative? You're going to have differences between the states and the regions anyway. So I wouldn't agree that we should blow up the Iowa caucuses because we don't like the results.
This myth that people go to New Hampshire and Mitt Romney's going to change your cat litter and Ron Paul is going to make your kids lunch to go to school, that's a thing of the past. For the most part, New Hampshire is a media primary, just like the other states are.
I would actually vote for Mitt Romney if he changed my cat litter.
This is the closest thing we have where individual voters are able to vet the candidates up close and not rely on the media carpet bombing that you get or would get in some of the big media markets. So I like the fact that these two states.
Let's assume there even was retail politics of the old school still in New Hampshire. I would argue that your ability to give a speech on television or give an important interview through the media is more relevant to your ability to govern this country and be the leader of the free world than your ability to have a one-on-one discussion with somebody at a diner in New Hampshire or Iowa.
I don't know why you hung up on this, Jim. I think the way this has played out this year has been great. You've got a whole host of debates that have occurred, so you could tune in just about any week and see the Republican candidates debating. And if you're in Iowa and you're in New Hampshire, you have a good opportunity to actually buttonhole one of the candidates and get that face time.
It's got you this and got you that. It's got you journalism. It's got you politics. And it does lessen our chances to get things done. Do you think I would serve till I was 106? I mean, I'm 71 years old. The question is, I have decided not to serve until 3 months before my 75th birthday.
Senator Hedlund, how would you rate the Barney Frank 30 years in Congress?
I got to say two things about Barney. I think Republicans may get someone they'll become more frustrated with than Barney. Barney was a target, and with that district, you may get someone even further to the left than Barney. Barney actually, and this is going to be heresy amongst Republicans, but he, at times, not on the big issues, like obviously Dodd-Frank is a big problem for Republicans, and his complicit participation in the housing crisis. You know, he was horrendous on that. But he displayed an independent streak, believe it or not, in Congress. He teamed up with Ron Paul on a lot of measures. However, I think that he's not getting his feet held to the fire on the banking and the banking scandal and the housing crisis.
We have with us Bill Hudak of Boxford. The Republican candidate is running for the second time in the 6th Congressional District. Back in 2010, he lost to incumbent Democrat John Tierney, 57 to 43%.
And that sign on the lawn in 2008, what was that all about?
Well, I think that was a little frustration about not vetting a candidate who I thought the policies were going to be wrong for this country, and it was really just an awareness thing.
What's the #1 issue that you think differentiates you between you and Richard Tisei?
Well, I think there are a number of them, but I'm very solid on the fiscal issues. I think Richard has a spotty record on that. I think.
In what sense?
Well, he's done a couple of things in particular. One is that he did not support the tax rollback. I've signed the no tax pledge with Grover Norquist 2 years ago.
He's got a pretty strong record on voting against taxes, though.
Well, voting against increases, but you also have to recognize that there's a connection between what you do in terms of mandates, for example, the health insurance mandate, and taxes, because a lot of people look at them in isolation and they're not.